about that?
Another talk for another day. Another talk for another day.
Benjamin Nikolich, Dylan Donegan. Jeskai Control, Grixis Death Shadow. That's what we're getting ready for right now, everybody. Benjamin on 6, Dylan on 7. I gotta stir the ship here. Oh, quick shout to Adam Snook on Facebook. You can't send me a Facebook message with a question that breaks literally all of the rules that I put in place, of which there were not many. Twitter used the hashtag. That was it, Adam. That was it. We're underway. Patrick, what's that land?
That is a...
Don't say Watery Grave, because I'm not talking about that one.
Sacred Foundry? That is not an invocation.
It was not an invocation. That's correct.
I believe that's a Sacred Foundry.
I believe you were correct, by the way. Nailed it. Proud of you.
Thanks.
Here comes a Inquisition of Kozilek. Secure the Wastes, Supreme Verdict, Lightning Helix, Cryptic Command, Scalding Tarn. Not the best hand I've ever seen here from Mr. Nikolich.
And one that is pretty vulnerable to a fast, large creature.
Now I want to make it worth noting that on my sheet I have player ends the first turn at 14 or less life.
Okay.
Which I am not going to get to.
Just a new thing to complain about.
That's correct. Over to Benjamin we go. He's going to play a Sacred Foundry. He drew a Sacred Foundry, passed the turn back. As you saw Dylan take care of the Secure the Waste in his hand with the discard spell. Nikolich has been playing this deck for a very long time.
You can tell, I mean, the foils here that have been acquired. It's the labor of love.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Scalding Tarn, Thoughtseize. Get a good look here at Nikolich's hand again. See that he's drawn a land, gonna lose his Supreme Verdict, which means that Donegan can start deploying threats.
And this turn, in fact, possibly. Looks like he does not have a follow-up, but.
A Hollowed Fountain will be found off of the Scalding Tarn. And now we're going back over to Benjamin. He'll just play that Scalding Tarn right away, pass the turn back, over to Donegan, who will fetch.
So I would guess that if Donegan took the Supreme Verdict rather than the Cryptic Command, that means he has a play to make this coming turn.
Well, he'll start with a little Thought Scour action. 2 cards go to the graveyard. Looks like 2 Snapcaster Mages into the graveyard. Random card drawn. He'll untap. He'll draw. No red mana just yet here for Donegan. As I mentioned earlier, Donegan did win the Team Open in Baltimore 2 weeks ago with his teammates of Noah Walker and Oliver too. And Donegan did it by playing this deck, a deck that he really, really does like to play. And it's obviously a very good one, is Grixis Death Shadow. He'll now sacrifice Blue to Delta. Wouldn't be surprised to see a Blood Crypt be found here for Donegan. That's generally how we see players start here with Death Shadow. He'll go Grave, Grave into Crypt, play a spell. This spell will be Serum Visions, however. No threat on the battlefield just yet here for Dylan. He's already down to 9. Could go to 6 in the Lightning Helix.
Looks like he picked up a Snapcaster Mage.
It's a good card. Nikolich will now sacrifice that land, get a Steam Vents down to 18. He's got all the colors of the rainbow. Flooded Strand is land number 4, which means that Cryptic Command number 1 is online as we go back over to Dylan Donegan. 9 to 18 in life totals, but this is ideally where Death Shadow wants to be. Yeah, we know that.
Donegan's been disruptive here. It would have been very nice for him to have a threat card last turn. So now he knows he's playing into Cryptic Command. He's got to figure out how to sequence around that, but Graveyard's nice and stocked.
Well, he's going to play Snapcaster Mage to start. And you see him play it tentatively, because he's expecting it to get Cryptic Commanded. Nikolich very quickly going to search up a basic island with that Flooded Strand. That'll give him 3 blue sources. And this is going to be a counter draw off Cryptic Command. Patrick, you might want to get the old bingo board out.
Do not mind if I do.
Yep. Well done. You really earned it, pal. Now Tasker is going to show up. Dylan's going to delve away a handful of cards for the old 4-5. Snapcaster Mage played as just a 2/1 with Flash. Probably not going to get there. Here's Serum Visions. That's on my board here. Nikolich, number 13 on our SCG Tour leaderboard. It's been a good year for him. He'll play an island. Going to follow up with a Path to Exile. Wants to get Tasker off the battlefield now, while Donegan is tapped out. Doesn't want to have to worry about Path to Exile. Or, excuse me, doesn't want to worry about Stubborn Denial.
Yep.
Pardon me. Donegan going to very quickly search up an island, and we're going to head back over to Dylan. He'll pick up a card. Looks like he may have picked up the Real Big Fish and Gurmag Angler. It's actually going to be a Death Shadow. Going to be a 4/4 Death Shadow out of Lightning Helix range.
Super Game Night players, your pairing seedings for deck construction have been posted at the gathering point on Orange.
You see Nikolich wants to get an idea of what Donegan is working with in the graveyard, and now he will untap and draw. There's a Celestial Colonnade for Benjamin. He'll just simply pass the turn back over to Donegan. He'll draw a card, will Dylan.
So Donegan at this spot definitely wants to be applying pressure, but he also has to be mindful of just getting burned out, which these Jeskai decks. Now, Nikolich's deck much more control-oriented than some of the tempo-style decks we've seen, but Donegan still needs to be mindful of don't put yourself so low that a couple bolts finish you off in a game where you were otherwise quite a bit ahead.
Nikolich very quickly draws and simply passes the turn back over to Donegan. Donegan maybe a little surprised by that as he'll slowly untap and draw a card for his turn. Dylan working with 4 to 5 cards in hand at this point, but he's not doing much, and neither is Benjamin. So we'll see some fireworks here, I imagine, momentarily. Because if things don't change, Benjamin will die. And you see Dylan a little befuddled here. Wondering what's going on in your hand. I know about Lightning Helix. I don't know about anything else. This is all very strange and surprising.
Has to be mindful of Colonnade blocking. So would be nice for him to have a fetch land here, so he has the option of going down to 8 at a moment's notice.
Or even 6, which would be even better for old Death Shadow.
But then 6 puts you in the range where 2 bolts kind of kills you out of nowhere.
Yep.
So exactly how much life is Donegan willing to pay to advance here is complicated.
Well, there is a Bloodstained Mire, so there's the fetch land you talked about, Patrick. The attack here from Donegan is going to be for 4 initially, but you see that he's almost a little bit afraid to make this attack, because the lower he goes, potentially the worse it gets. 9 is not a bad place to be. Less than 9 gets a little bit scary.
Well, the difference between 9 and 8, I think the big one is now Electrolyze can be part of a 3-spell sequence to finish you off.
Yep.
But
Bloodstained Mire is going to bring Dylan down to 8, which means that Death Shadow is going to move up to a 5/5. There's a Steam Vents.
And you see Donegan playing it tapped here, not willing to go down to 6, as that just opens up such a wide range of ways to get killed.
Path to Exile on the Death Shadow. That'll be Nikolich's response. Dylan is going to go with, wow, whoa.
Please report to table 400. Zachary Fink to table
Fatal Push's own threat. Well, that implies one thing. Kolaghan's command.
Perhaps Liliana. Could
Also,
be another reason.
yeah, also Liliana, sure.
But yes, I think Kolaghan's command the most likely.
I do get to mark something off my bingo card. Can I have a stamper, please, Patrick?
Is that Fatal Push with
That
Revolt?
was Fatal Push with Revolt. That's just good directing down there
What
by
is
our
it?
director, Dan May. Attaboy. That, I don't know what that is.
Is that a Snapcast?
That's, yeah, the Snapcaster Mage. That's Snapcaster Mage.
from the regional something or
Yeah,
other.
it's the soccer playing Snapcaster Mage.
So Nikolich is just going to try to pivot here and go for the kill, it looks like. He can secure for 2, plus the Snapcaster, plus the Colonnade. That's 8 out of nowhere.
Yeah. He could actually just go straight for the W, like you mentioned.
On top of that, he's still got the Helix in hand. I think he's just drawing a Torrential Gear Hulk.
Here's Terminate on Snapcaster Mage. I think he did go. Gearhulk is insane right now. He kind of wants to cast it.
Yeah, but with Cryptic in the graveyard, I mean, he can. This is a fine to do it here.
Yeah.
I guess if he's just trying to push the kill through next turn.
Yeah, that's pretty good right now. He's going to take a look at the graveyard.
Cryptic command.
Yeah.
Cryptic command.
That'll be counter draw. Thank you much. Terminate. Kindly leave. In for 4. Put you to 4. I'm not sure how Dylan gets out of this.
Now this is, this is kind of the recipe here. If you're trying to beat Death Shadow, is have enough instant speed play where if they push themselves low enough, you can just turn around and kill them. And I think the Jeskai deck, even the more controlling builds, have that option here. As we said, Nikolich went from no board to
a real board.
Flipped and killed you kind of in one turn.
What's interesting about Benjamin's deck, one, he's been playing this deck legit forever, okay? So we don't see Secure the Waste or Torrential Gearhulk very much in Modern. And they are here, and they're both being very effective, in my opinion. There's Gurmag Angler, which is outclassed by the Gearhulk.
A little curious here for Donegan to use the Fatal Push to keep the Death Shadow in the graveyard, facing an opposing Colonnade, and then not do anything the very next turn.
Yeah, it was a little surprising. Nikolich says, I'm going to get in here with my creatures on the ground. I'm going to save the Colonnade for later. Remember, Nikolich also has Lightning Helix in hand. He's had it in hand basically the entire game. A lot of discipline from your Jeskai control player here, too. Yeah, and Dylan Donegan has conceded the game. So he went from something to nothing very quickly there, Patrick. Turned the corner, and Benjamin Nikolich does win game number 1 here over Dylan Donegan. Jeskai control up a game, maybe a little bit surprisingly, over Grixis Death Shadow.
Yeah, I thought that game was really shaping up to be positive for Donegan, in part because I assumed he had found a counterspell by that point in the game. Clearly he hadn't, but Nikolich kept his life total high enough and allowed Donegan to go down low enough that he could flip and kill in kind of one turn.
Well, we are going to go to the sideboards here in just a little bit, but first, a few messages from our wonderful sponsors. Well, let's talk sideboards here. We're going to start with Dylan Donegan, who's got 2 Liliana of the Veil, 2 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Stubborn Denial, 2 Kozak's Return. A Collective Brutality, and its Staticaster, Kolaghan's Command, Liliana, the Last Hope, and Temur Battle Rage.
Actually, not a whole lot that I love here. I think the 2 extra copies of Stubborn Denial are good for this matchup. The extra copy of Kolaghan's Command, I think, is fine. The Planeswalkers are, I think Liliana of the Veil is probably above the board. Not a huge fan of Liliana, the Last Hope, with a lot of Nikolich's removal, exiling.
We'll take a look at Nikolich, who's got 3 Dispel, 2 Ruined Halo, 2 Vendilion Click, 2 Celestial Purge, 1 of Fun Ofs and Wear Tear, Supreme Verdict, Detention Sphere, Engineered Explosives, Elspeth Sun's Champion, and Negate.
A lot to like here. I think the Engineered Explosive, the Detention Sphere, the Supreme Verdict, the 2 copies of Celestial Purge are all excellent. And past that, I think Negate, Rune Halo, and Elspeth Sun's Champion are also worth considering.
A lot of good options there for both players as we get ready here for game number 2. They'll be given the green light here in just a second. We'll be underway between Benjamin Nikolich and Dylan Donegan. Remember, Nikolich kind of stole that first one, it felt like.
Well, his hand was really not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And Donegan had spent so many turns setting up and cantripping that I just assumed he had a lot left over, but Nikolich with a couple critical draws there, the Snapcaster Maze, the Torrential Gearhulk, was able to flip the game around really fast.
Serum Vision is going to leave both cards on top there for Mr. Donegan. And for Nikolich, he'll play a Serum Visions of his own. Picked up a copy, it looked like an Electrolyze. And I think it was. Now these 2 cards are going to be the bottom cards as we head back over to Donegan. He kept this card on top. He will cycle a Street Wraith. Down to 16 goes Dylan. Let's make it 15, potentially 13 for our Death Shadow player. It is 13 now in Blood Crypt. Let's make it 11. Well, he's not messing around here. The follow-up, Inquisition of Kozilek. See what Nikolich is working with here. I talked about the Electrolyze. He's got 2 of those along with the Dispel. Couple of lands there in Glacial Fortress, Flooded Strand, and Island, and he's got a transform card.
Search.
Search Riscanta.
2 copies.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
So this hand is very soft to a large delve threat.
Yes. Tasker were to come down right now, it'd be pretty darn good. And there's Tasker.
Yep.
So take the Search for Riscanta, leave you with 2 Electrolytes to dispel a bunch of lands. Hope you don't draw Path to Exile.
Your hand can't handle this, so I'm going to take away the card that can improve your hand.
Well, Nikolich makes it look a little bit easier there. He'll draw a copy of Search for Riscanta, even though he just discarded one. So now we head back over to Donegan. Donegan will draw a card.
That's it. About the perfect draw there.
Yeah. That'll help him find the path
Yes.
that he needs, and he can protect the path with the Dispel. So it's a very, very good draw.
And the draw was going to be dead otherwise because it's legendary. So Donegan gave him a little bit of assistance too.
Well, Dylan, the easiest step is attacking. I know he knows that. And I'm sure he'll get to that momentarily. He's got to figure out how to carve out the rest of this game now. He knows exactly what Nikolich is working with, ignoring the top card of his deck. Couple of lands in hand, some Electrolyzes, Dispel. Got the Search of Riscanta on the battlefield now, which is an annoyance. He's going to start by sacrificing a Scalding Tarn. So down at 10. See if he wants to go down to 8. Yep. Right now, if he plays Death Shadow, it's a 5-5. He's going to start by opting. Scry. And he likes that one.
Ops Scries to top.
No, cool. Cool, that's good for your bingo
Go ahead.
board. Go
Plug
stamp
that one in.
that home. There you go. Young Pyromancer in the face of Electrolyze.
Yeah, well,
Okay, well, you do you, man. You do you.
you know, not the way you draw it up probably.
Not
but
really, no. Plane's going to go to the graveyard, land the draw there for Nikolich. The Glacial Fortress, the land. Electrolyze right now while Dylan's tapped out. 1-1. You're going to bring Donegan down to 7. Clearly, he knew this could happen. Nikolich draws a card. It's a Celestial Purge, folks. That'll take care of Tassiger.
Pair it with the Dispel also.
Indeedy.
And then you have Search for Riscanta
Gonna be
to
transforming
grind
soon.
it. To grind it.
Mm-hmm. What's our follow-up? Liliana. Pretty good card. Up to 4 goes the Planeswalker. Nikolich ready to discard, as is Donegan. Street Wraith and a land there for each player as we head back over to Nikolich. He will take a look at the top card thanks to the Search for Riscanta. A card that, Patrick, I feel could be a modern playable.
Oh, for sure.
I think it could be very good.
I mean, the question is, for me, the question is how good are the surrounding pieces? How much you want to be playing with Path to Exile, Cryptic Command, and the red removal spells. But just on rate alone, definitely.
A good card.
Also, you know, if there are a lot of Ghost Quarters and such floating around, your payoff being a land is maybe not ideal.
Sure.
So there are some considerations, but just in terms of raw rate, I think it's good enough for the format.
Hollowed Fountain Untapped is what Nikolich is going to search up. He's going to fall down to 9. And you see a Supreme Verdict will take care of the Tassiger. Let's head back over to Dylan Donegan.
And this allows Nikolich to save the Celestial Purge for
Liliana, indeed.
with the spell backup.
Here's an opt. Top card becomes the bottom one now. And now Donegan will draw. Nikolich's deck does not play a lot of spells in one turn like Donegan's does. As Donegan will fire off a Thoughtseize, you see the Purge, the Dispel, and an Electrolyze as Donegan falls down to 5.
Yeah, even if he gets rid of the Purge here, that's all well and good. The concern is you have no pressure and you're at 5 against a deck with a bunch of bolts.
Yep.
It's about to be flipping over Search.
Gurmag Angler's pretty good.
There you go.
That's
that
what
was
he needed.
Really important to have that as the last piece of the puzzle here because Donegan cannot give Nikolich all the time in the world.
Yep.
He's got to get this game turned around. Close this thing out as fast as he can.
Well, the big fish can do it in 2 turns. Search for Riscanta. Take a look at the top card, Will Nikolich. He's looking for Snapcaster Mage, Path to Exile, anything like that.
With the Electrolyze, he can even be just drawing to bolts.
He can be.
At this point. Although he only has the 1 red source of mana.
Search for Riscanta will transform. Alrighty. Draw a card, will Nikolich. Electrolyze here, perhaps? Wow, redirect over to Liliana. Maybe a little surprising there. Thought he might want to bring him down to 3. Maybe he didn't leave a lot of burn in, not sure.
I mean, the bolts are pretty bad against this deck as a rule.
It's very true. In comes the Angler. As Liliana went up, Thoughtseize went to the grave. Now, I think Nikolich has Nahiri. Yes, he does. That'll take care of the Angler. And now you take a look. It's kind of funny, right? Where Donegan discarded Thoughtseize to his Liliana. Now, had he cast Thoughtseize, and you never know this, obviously, at the time, he snags the Nahiri.
But then you're also just at 3.
Purge, wow, Snapcaster Mage off the top is going to take care of Liliana in combination with Celestial Purge. Some timely top decks here for Nikolich. Death Shadow going to come down here for Donegan. Nikolich will draw. He picked up a fetch land. He'll activate Nahiri, discard a card, draw a card. Serum Visions is what he's found.
Been really awesome to watch Nikolich go through these games.
Now he's going to take a look at the top couple of cards here with his Iskanta. He wants Path. That's the best draw.
He's done a very good job of working around a bunch of tight spots so far through these 2 games.
He's been playing this deck forever. It looks weird as there's Runed Halo that he cannot cast this turn, I believe. He can play the Serum Visions, though. So now if Donegan finds a removal spell for this Snapcaster Mage, we're all done.
But if he bricks on this draw, he's not drawn to a whole lot.
No, he is not. He's going to fall down to 4.
If he attacks with the Death Shadow and Nikolich is able to chump block, Nahiri is there then to follow up and get remove the Death Shadow. And if Nikolich is able to cast the Rune Halo, then you've got a lot of breathing space. So a lot riding on this draw set for Donegan. I don't think he's going to get, if it's not this turn, I doubt he's going to get another one.
Well, big top deck here for Dylan. He'll draw a card. He knows he needs a goodie. Gonna slow roll himself just a touch. That's not what the doctor ordered. He tried to thin the deck out a little bit to give him a better percentage chance to hit, but it does not look like he hit at all.
And this is a pretty obscene slow roll. That is what is happening right now. So I imagine he drew nothing of note.
Yeah, he's not the type, so he'll just pass the turn back. Draw a card now, will Nikolich. Up to 8 goes Nahiri. Discard a Serum Visions. Draw a new card, will Benjamin. Looked like it may have been a copy of Cryptic Command, which is a doozy. Here comes Runed Halo, perhaps. Yes. Stubborn Denial, the draw. Snapcaster Mage for Dispel will allow Nikolich to fight back. Boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Delicious.
Yes. Well, I imagine that's naming Death Shadow, which is what Donegan just drew. So he's going to play that. Oh, boy. We're going to go back over to Benjamin, who's got Nahiri on 8. Now, I'm not sure if there's an Emrakul hiding out in this deck. I don't think there is.
He has if he still has a Torrential Gear Hulk in his deck.
Yeah, which I think he does. And that is going to do it. Benjamin Nikolich is going to win this match here over Dylan Donegan, 2-0. Jeskai Control going to take care of Grixis Death Shadow. And it's a very impressive display from a deck that looks real weird on paper.
That was great.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought both of those games were, not really going that well for Benjamin, but was able to, bob and weave. The way he sequences his spells was really great. And then when he was ready to turn around and actually start attacking, it didn't take very long for his deck to close out either.